You're watching Pyro Media Network.
Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope your experience is fruitful. Please feel free to visit our website to find out how you can join our growing family. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. Also, share so others may enjoy as well. And we hope you would consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. All right, let's start the show. Hello everyone. Before we begin, we want to provide a brief trigger warning for our audience. This episode contains discussions and content that may be disturbing or triggering to some viewers and listeners. Topics may include specific triggers such as violence, abuse, mental health issues, etc. Your well-being is important to us. If you feel overwhelmed or need to step away at any point, please take care of yourself. Additionally, we encourage anyone who may need support to reach out to a trusted friend, family member, or mental health professional. Remember, it's okay to prioritize your mental and emotional health. Thank you for tuning in, and we appreciate your understanding and support. Now, let's get started with today's show.
Hey family, hey, how are you today? I hope you're doing well. Look, it's been a long day, right? It's been a long day. We went to work, we went to school, we did whatever we did today. Now we're at our homes, hopefully, or wherever we are right now. And we are preparing ourselves to maybe go to bed, do some homework, watch TV, whatever it is. I just want you to take a moment to just take a deep breath and say, I'm glad I'm here tonight. And guess what? I'm glad you're here tonight too. Tonight, I want to talk to you about a very delicate topic, and that is grief. Grief. Hey, family. Hi, Miss Stephanie. Hi, Phoenicia. Hello, everyone. I want to talk to us about grief. And the subject matter is, why is grief so hard during the holidays? You ever ask yourself that? I have asked myself that many times. Why is grief so hard during the holidays? And it could be, somebody could say, well, that's obvious, why grief is so hard during the holidays, because you're missing your loved one and all of that. And that's true. I don't think we miss them that much more just because it's a holiday. I just think it's what it represents and how maybe we miss what we no longer have with that family member or that loved one anymore. And so maybe that's the hard part. But, tonight I have a couple of guests that are going to be with me, and we are all at different stages in our loss of a loved one. And amazingly enough, we have all lost our fathers. So it's a conversation where we can all share. But we're going to dig into that tonight. We're going to talk about it because, grief it's a journey, and it's an individual journey. It's very unique to every person. No one does it the same. It's never linear, even with the 5, stages of grief. And then we're going to add a 6th one tonight. No one does it the same. So I want to bring my guests in tonight. I have 2 amazing gentlemen that are going to be with me, Kwame Speaks and Dr. Dontà Morrison. They're going to come and they're going to join me in this conversation. And we're just going to talk tonight. And please add in your comments, share your information, share your stories. We want to hear from you. So let me get my guests. They're coming now. Hey, gentlemen.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey, thank you so much for joining me tonight.
For
Thanks for
sure.
having us.
And I want to say that I really do think that you're very brave, because everyone does not want to have this conversation. Now, even though I think it's very needful in some situations, it's not a conversation. It's not a popular conversation. Let's just say that, right?
Right.
It's not a popular conversation. And so I just want to, again, thank you for being here. So tonight we're talking about why grief is so hard during the holidays. First, just let's kind of look at what is grief, right? So grief is the experience of coping with your loss. That's like a real brief and simple definition of what grief is. It's that thing you feel when you're dealing with something that you've lost. And we know that we don't only grieve people, that we can grieve jobs, employment, we can grieve relationships, houses, cars. People grieve many different things. But the feeling of loss, or the feeling of grief because of the loss is, generally the same. So I want to get started by just kind of discussing or putting out there what the 5 stages of grief are. So let's start with the first one, which is denial. Okay. Just refusing to believe. And that's that initial feeling that we feel when people, experience a loss. It's like, I can't believe that happened. I can't believe this is it. Even if a person is diagnosed with the disease, it's like, I can't believe it, And so denial is the first thing. And then sometimes anger will set in. It doesn't happen in this order all the time, but there also is anger. So now the reality of the situation sets in, and now you're mad. And we can be mad at ourselves. We can be mad at the situation. We can be mad at God. We can be mad at the person that we lost. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Look at you being a guest and a producer. You better go. And then let's look at bargaining. So that's the attempt to negotiate, prayers, or, what if I had just, if, oh my God, if I had only, that type of thinking. And then there's depression. And depression kind of begins when we begin to accept the reality of whatever that situation is. And then that's when the sadness, the regret, the sorrow sets in. Sometimes we can be overwhelmed with those feelings. We can feel hopeless. Sometimes we can even feel like, I don't think I can live without that person or that thing. And then there comes acceptance. And a lot of people think, oh, acceptance is when, I'm okay. I'm okay with the fact that, this person's never going to be with me anymore. But actually acceptance, which is they consider to be the final stage, but we're going to talk about a 6th stage later on, is when we come to terms with the reality that whatever we have lost is no more. And even though we still feel sad, sometimes we still feel the longing for that person or that thing, we do realize that that's it, that's not our reality anymore. And so we began to experience somewhat of some peace with accepting the fact that that thing or person is no longer there. But we will forever grieve. We'll forever grieve that person. You know, that doesn't go away. The intensity of it goes away, but the experience of the loss, it forever changes you. You know, and sometimes the change is good, sometimes the change is not. So it just depends. And I think people, we determine what that looks like. Okay. So it depends on what we do. So let me ask you guys a question, because both of you have experienced loss. And if you could just give me the quick and gritty of what your loss story is, your grief story is. Dr. Dontà.
What I signed up for? You know, now we doing this. I'm like, why did I agree to do this? Once you start talking, I was like, man, that was good. Yeah, that's deep. Basically, I lost my father died during the pandemic. He died from complications to COVID after actually being missing. He went missing for two almost 3 months. We didn't know where he was at. We couldn't find him, and then he was found in the hospital, and he was on machines. And then I had to make the decision to do, because I was the only child. So it was I think the grief for me is just so layered, because it was the loss of my father missing, dealing with that. Then to find him, you get that exhale, like, oh my God, yes, you found him, only to realize that he's not in the best state. And I think the aftermath of everything with his loss, and then losing also family as a result of the loss, compounded the grief. So I wasn't able to grieve in the way that most people grieve, because I didn't get to have the big funeral where I can pass out and do all the theatrics that you can see in black people, because blacks can give a funeral, we funeral. So I didn't get to have all of that. I felt a little robbed. So for me, it's a day by day process. Some days is good. I can stroll along, but some days it's like, dang, my dad is not here. So yeah.
And how long ago was that?
It was February of 2000. What's this? 24, 2020, 22. It was the year 23. It was the year that I graduated, got my doctorate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So Kwame.
Yeah. So
you want to share?
Yeah, my father just recently passed away. He passed away last month. I think what prepared me for it was the fact that we kind of knew that he was going into a space of no return. But it was still like shocking nonetheless. And I've always been, and I was actually talking to Dontà last month about it when it was happening. I've always been the person in my friend group where I had both my parents in my life. In some ways, yeah. So joining that club that I never wanted to join was something that was interesting to me. It was a shift, and it was a different vibe. So yeah.
Wow, that's interesting, and the fact that it's still so very new makes me appreciate you more for being here tonight. I lost my dad. Let's see, my youngest daughter is 21, will be 22. And so when she was just barely a year, my father passed away. And he was 66 years old. So I've had this two things happen in my life that have kind of caused me to have some trauma. So my mother passed away when I was 11 years old, and she was 32, she had been 32 for 1 week. And when I started getting in my 30s, like the end of my 20s, I started freaking out. Freaking out. I've shared this before. because I was like, oh my God, my life is lining up with my mother's. What's going to happen? I'm going to leave these 3 kids here. I'm going to die, because I was having some of the same symptoms that she was having with her illness. And when I turned 33, I had this big old party and I was happy, right? Well, I just recently turned 60, and my father passed when he was 66. So just for a minute, I started tripping again. I was like, oh, well, that was 60.
Wow.
Just for a minute. But I had to, take a step back and go, your life doesn't have to align with theirs in that way. God has a different plan for your life. And so that was something that I had to come to grips with. But I lost my first child. Like, she was born, and then a couple hours later, she was no longer here. I lost my mom, I lost my dad, and so many family members and friends, and so that whole thing about grief and loss, it's a real thing for people. People are experiencing this on a daily basis. And I was talking to Kwame earlier, and I was telling him, like, yeah, we talk about grief and loss in so many areas, but I was telling him, I said, but that whole little pandemic loss thing, that little thing right there,
Listen.
that's a whole subject matter within itself. That's a whole different kind of loss.
Listen, Miss COVID came through and she showed us who she was
all the way out, right?
Yeah,
showed out.
And I think for me, it affects me differently when I hear people say COVID was fake. That's fake news. COVID wasn't real. I ain't getting vaccinated. All that. I'm looking like, yo, for real? Because my dad died a week before the vaccine came out.
Yep.
So I was looking like, are y'all serious? So my whole mindset about conspiracy theorists during that time, I'm like, y'all are so insensitive. You don't know who you're sitting next to.
That's true.
But it woke me up to a lot. Also, coupled with that, because this is my biological father died.
Yeah.
My stepfather raised me, but my biological father was always there, but he wasn't there. So people thought it wouldn't hurt me as bad. Well, at least y'all wasn't that close. What? I've heard people say that, at least he wasn't always around. Well, I was like, but that's who made me. I
right.
My behavior is like him. When he and I'll be together, we would talk the same thing. Like, oh my God, now I know where I get it from you, clown.
Yes.
So I'm like, it's a piece of me that is no longer here. And people don't understand that because from their purview, we were not close. But
from their point of view.
And that's the part. Yeah, thank you, Uncle Kenny. He was still my blood. He was my
That's blood. Right. He was still your blood. Right. And I identify with go ahead, Kwame.
No, yeah, I just wanted to I resonate with what Dr. Dante said because like I've always, been vocal about like certain points of contention that me and my dad had, as I was growing up, but at the same time, he was still a phenomenal provider. I never knew what hunger was. I never had any bills that I knew of like that was not paid. I always had full Christmases. Like I was blessed. And so like he worked very hard to make sure that we were all taken care of. And so regardless of our personality differences and issue, and come to find out, we're very similar.
That's usually the problem.
Come to find out, like a lot of his, he was a proud Black Panther, and so a lot of his radicalism was instilled in me, and so a lot of how I feel about our culture and about our community and what's going on with the nation at the moment, was because of him. You know what I'm saying? And so my passion for that is because of him. And so, it's just interesting to hear Dr. Dontà say that. So I don't mean to interrupt again.
Yeah. No, but I was going to say I resonate as well because people can just say really dumb stuff,
Mm-hmm.
especially during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so when I lost my baby, I remember someone saying to me, well, at least you didn't get close to the child. At least, you never had, to worry about, I was like, whoa, that was like
Right.
just a jab to my gut. I
Right.
didn't get
Right.
close. I carried this person inside me. I
Right.
think it gets closer,
Right.
and so I
Right.
get it. Those are things people sometimes, like we've discussed before, they don't know what to say.
They don't.
So sometimes they say the worst thing that they could say,
And
and
I
I
hate,
think it's always in an effort to hurt you.
Yeah.
I just think they don't know what to say. Go ahead.
Then you
and I
shouldn't
hate,
say
and I
anything.
hate, and I hate when they say, I know what you're going through. Really, your dad died? Well, not my dad, but my friend's dad passed away. Then you don't know what I'm going through. You
That's
don't
right.
know what I'm going through. So just
You don't know what I'm going through.
you're doing this, do this.
Stop.
Yeah, mute.
And right, and then and not to, I love my saintly brothers and sisters, but please, I know God. I know
Yeah.
God. So
Yeah.
telling me, well, the Lord's gonna. I know what the Lord is gonna do. I
Yeah.
know that. Please, you don't think I prayed about it?
Yeah.
I'm doing all of that.
Right.
But let me grieve. Let me
Yeah,
let me
And-
deal.
and-
Let me
and-
process this.
And to your point, Dr. Dante, like I think, like, again, like you said, like, yes, we know the Lord, right? And I'm very blessed to know that my dad was saved. I'm very blessed to know that a lot of people in my life that passed away are saved. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm missing them, or the fact that I wish they were still here, or that I'm still angry about that, and God loves me enough to allow me to process that.
Yes.
And I think that was something that I had to kind of work through, because I was like, well, I'm angry at God, but I love God, but I'm really mad at you because he did that. So it's a lot going on. But I think that that's okay to process,
Right.
And I think that's a very natural thing that people go through, whoever the people that believe in God, that they have a relationship with God. But think about it. Anybody that we are in relationship with, sometimes we're angry with them. Sometimes we're happy with them. Sometimes we're satisfied with them. Sometimes we're not. I mean, it's part of the relationship, So I don't think God is, afraid or concerned when he knows that we feel a way.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think he loves us enough to give us that space to say, okay, go ahead. You're human. You're feeling this, and he knows that we're not going to get too far out there.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this before the show, and I always joke around with a lot of people when I talk about just death and of itself. But I have a lot of questions for God. So when I get up there, hey Suits, can you come over here real quick? We have questions. 2020. What was 2020 about?
Right. We have eternity to answer this question.
I have a lot. I wrote some stuff down.
2020 was something.
Right.
It was a year to reckon with, I tell you.
Yeah.
And one thing that I do thank God for in the death of my father was that he made a way for me to be with my dad despite COVID guidelines. So when people weren't allowed to get into the hospital, to get into the rooms, they said, no, come on in and see your dad. Come on in. And they gave me time to be in there with him, even though I know he hurt me. But, you can tell somebody he's not going to come back. So just to be able to talk in his ear, to let him know that we're good, I'm not mad at you. And, whatever light you see, I need you now to accept Christ. I mean, I did the sinner's prayer with my dad, while he was on his deathbed. So that gave me peace. And I was like, Lord, I thank you, because so many did not get to be with their loved ones during that time. They never got to see their loved one again after they went into the hospital. So when I had that opportunity to be like the last voice my father heard, or to have that sacred time with my dad, I had to rejoice, because that was nothing but God that allowed that to happen. So it gave me a little bit of peace to know that I got to say everything I want to say to my dad before he died, because people don't get that opportunity. But I got to do it, and he had to lay there and listen. I
Right.
dumped everything. Like I purged everything.
Wow.
We talked,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
next day he transitioned. So that was my blessing in all of it, because I know
Mhm.
everybody did not get to have those moments.
Yeah.
What a special moment that was to be
Yeah.
able to do that. And, the fact that your dad was leaving, but you're still here, and so that was part of your healing,
Mhm.
part of the healing for you, even though, you had to experience the grief of him being gone. But at the same time, there was a healing that took place, or a healing that began when you were able to say all those things. And like you said, purge and release all of whatever it was that you have been feeling over the years.
Right.
So that is a blessing. And I think that kind of goes into the whole thing about, this, I've been reading this book. And it's funny because I didn't really think that I was like in a place of grief or anything, presently. But I started reading this book called Finding Meaning, The Sixth Stage of Grief. And this is by David Kessler. And he talks about finding meaning, like after you've accepted, then it's like a job, it's a mission almost for you to find meaning in what has happened. And it doesn't mean that you're going to understand or even like it, but the meaning, and he speaks from a place of experience. Yes, that's the book. He speaks from a place of experience because even though he was a counselor, a therapist for people who were grieving, he lost his son when his son was 21 years old. And he talked about how all those 5 stages of grief and all that stuff, he said that was not even working for him. He said he went through feeling like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it. This is so hard. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And he thought about all the people that he's kind of coached through those moments, and he thought, let me give myself some grace, because just like those people, they need time, they need space to grieve and feel everything that they feel. And I think that is part of a problem with some of us. And it could come from our families, how we grieve, what we do when we lose a loved one. I remember a good friend of mine who had lost her mom, and she was an only child. And I remember her spouse telling her, don't cry. You got to be strong. You got to stand strong. You can't cry. And I was like, girl, cry. You know what? Fall on the floor, kick and scream if that's what you need to do, because you can't keep those emotions locked up. God knows that, that you lost someone that you loved. This person's no longer going to be in your presence in your life anymore. And he understands. And you not, okay, so here's my thought. You not crying, you not expressing, you not, whatever it is that you feel, not expressing, that to me is not strength. It's not, that doesn't prove that you're strong because you don't express your feelings. I think the strong person can say, you know what, today is not it for me.
Yeah.
Today is one of them days. I'm missing my dad more than ever. I'm missing, my mom has been gone she died when I was 11 years old. And to this day, there are movies that come on. I'm a wreck. It's a wrap for me. I got to go lay down, take a nap, get it together. So
I get it.
yeah, so people, we can't put everybody in a box and say, oh, this is how you grieve, this is what you're gonna feel, or you need to be strong. Think about your kids. Well, I need my kids to see me feeling what I feel.
Right.
I look, if you guys see Christian, Brad, William, Zion, and Amani, if you see them laughing, joking, throwing high fives and saying, we ain't gonna cry, when I go, check them.
Yeah.
I want some tears, okay?
Right. It is so funny. It is so funny that you said that, because literally that's what I went through when my dad died. I was like, okay, Dante, you gotta be the strong one, because when you're clergy, you go to funerals all the time. You stand at the
Right.
front with the casket, you shaking the family, you passing tissues, and I'm like,
Yep.
okay, you got this, you got this, you got this. It wasn't until I had to go and buy my father's clothes that he's gonna get buried and cremated in. And I was literally in Macy's looking at slacks and looking at this, and he'll look nice in this. And something hit me, and I stopped in the middle of I was like, oh my God. And I gave out this wail like, my dad, I gotta dress my dad for this funeral. Are you kidding me? And then at the funeral, it was limited. Only 10 people can come in. It was the pandemic. So seeing my father there on this slab after all of this movement that I had did, preparing for the funeral and getting this and getting that, then the day I'm like, okay, y'all come in, we good. Look at him. Oh my God, he looks great. And then out of nowhere, I just blacked out. And my mother was like, yeah, that's it. He's gone, y'all. It's a wrap. He's done.
Yeah.
It's funny you guys said that, because I think for the entire time, like during the funeral, the time that I was in New York with my family, like I was okay. I was able to handle things, and it wasn't until I think it was last week I got a message from Paramount Plus saying that Star Trek Discovery had a new episode or whatever that I didn't watch or whatever. And Star Trek, I got into Star Trek because of my dad. That was one of my favorite times of the year, because on New Year's Eve, it would be like this kind of Star Trek original series marathon. And we would sit down, and that was like the one time me and my dad bonded so much. And when I got that message, and Star Trek Discovery is one of the newer shows, the newer iterations of Star Trek. And so I saw it, and I was like, I wish I could talk to my dad about this. And I broke down. Like, I was just like,
right.
What? And so it's hard, oh man. It's hard. Yeah.
Okay. I got you.
Oh, it's not me.
It's not.
Let me see. It's not me.
He's so compassionate. He's so compassionate.
Who gonna break first?
Who is more compassionate than Dante?
Because Cole remembers. Cole, I mean, when I did the Dante show, I was like, I don't cry.
Yeah.
I don't cry.
Yeah.
And when my dad died, I was like, oh yeah, it's a wrap. It's a whole other level of tears, that because people don't. I mean, a parent. That's a totally different thing. Losing your parent.
Yeah.
And I was like, my goodness, my dad is like not here. So I get it, Kwame. I mean, and when you and I talked, I was like, well, your life's never gonna be the same. Like ever. It's never gonna get better. You're gonna learn how to deal with it.
Yeah.
But it's never gonna get better. And then even with the book that Cole was just showed about finding the meaning, you also got to be in the mindset ready for the meaning.
Yeah.
Because depending on those stages that you're in, it's like, yo, I'm still angry right now. I ain't trying to find no meaning yet. So keep the book. I'll call you when I'm ready to read it.
And you know what? The funny thing is, I bought the book for someone, but I knew that person wasn't ready for it. So I started reading it. Well, I got to buy another one now because I done marked it up. I done did all the exercises and I did all that, but it's difficult. And I think it's probably, what do you think? I'm not going to say it is or it isn't, but what do you think? Do you think it's more difficult during the holidays?
No, for me, no. I think it's more difficult after, because during the holidays, you're usually surrounded by love and warmth and family and all the festivities. Yes, you want your loved one there, but you also have this reminder that we're going to keep this going. It's when it gets quiet. You know, it's and it normally gets quiet around about February, January, February. That's when it gets quiet and people are no longer calling and looking, and the trees down, the lights are gone, the festiveness is gone. Yeah, the holidays are difficult, but I think it's after it's over when everybody goes back to their normal. And then you got to now sit in the fact, man, my I didn't get to see my dad for Christmas. I didn't get to see my dad for this or whatever. For me, and for me,
Okay.
it's also different because my dad wasn't really there. He was there, but he wasn't. Like my dad was there in the way he knew how to be there. Put it that,
Yeah.
and
Right.
we're the
I get it.
exact same person. I know that we're the same person now that he's gone,
Yeah.
the same person. So that's
Yeah.
why I miss him more because I didn't get a chance to talk about how similar we are.
Mm,
That's what I miss most. Because when
okay.
I see people, you just like your daddy. Oh my God, your dad. And I'm like,
Yeah.
really? Because I have a
Wow.
cousin, who growing up, he lived with my dad and my grandmother. So when I'm
Wow.
around my cousin, he's telling me all these wonderful stories about my
Yeah.
dad. And when he was a
Yeah.
boy, your dad cooked this and your dad did this.
Right.
I was like, my dad did all that? And he's like,
Wow.
yeah. And I don't think he realizes how triggering that is for me. Because I'm like,
Wow.
I wanted my dad to be there, do that. I wanted pancakes from my dad. But
Yeah.
but as we got
Mm,
older, he and I formed a beautiful relationship.
that's
Like
good.
my 30s and 40s with my dad were just amazing because he would call me, I would call him, we'd cuss each other out, but call each other and say, you still mad? No,
Yeah.
you good? No, I'm good, that type of thing.
That's
And then when
cool.
he died, it's a huge
Yeah.
hole. But the
It
one thing
is.
y'all gonna find is funny. The one thing my dad was homeless. He liked being homeless. He loved the streets. That's why
There
I
are
got a
people
passion
who
for
do.
homeless people. I have a
Yeah.
passion for homeless people. Like y'all all right.
Wow.
He said, I will never live with you because I ain't finna deal with all your rules. I know you got rules up in that house and I want to be free and yada yada yada. Like, no, just come on, man. Just live with me. I got space. I ain't living with you. The whole nine. My dad is right here on this shelf in his urn. And I'm like, hi, got you. Guess where you
You
living?
got him,
You
huh?
leave.
Oh, that's funny.
You
We're
are
gonna
in
go
my
to a
house.
break and we'll be right back. We're gonna go to a break. I'm overdue. Sorry, I gotta
Oh,
pay these bills, y'all.
the pyro will find you.
Are you ready for enlightening conversations that transcend boundaries? Get ready for Conversations with Clergy, brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network. In partnership with the world's largest publicly funded international collaboration, the HVTN is dedicated to evaluating vaccines to prevent HIV and COVID-19. But their impact doesn't stop there. The HVTN is at the forefront of advancing vaccinology, social and behavioral sciences, statistics, immunology, and even contributing to the research on tuberculosis and COVID-19 vaccines. By supporting Conversations with Clergy, the HVTN not only brings you thought-provoking discussions, but also contributes to the global effort to combat infectious diseases. Tune in, stay informed, and be a part of the change. Conversations with Clergy, supported by the HVTN, empowering conversations, empowering lives. Join us in this journey of knowledge, understanding, and progress. Conversations with Clergy, proudly brought to you by the HIV Vaccine Trials Network, because together we can make a difference.
Okay, we are back. We are back. And I'm laughing because I'm looking at our chat. And Kwame's like, please go to a break.
Oh, he did.
What's that?
Because you know what it is. I know this is fresh for me, and I was like, I'm trying, and I was like, this is the roller coaster I'm on, and I can't get off. You know, when you get on a roller coaster, like I went off, I'm done. Right, so I'm trying. And Donta's like talking all this good stuff, and I'm like, I want him to express himself, but I also need
I know.
I had to get that off my heart. It was on my heart. My dad is right here. He's right here. He's here.
Oh, that was funny. We needed that little laugh right there. We did. Okay, so Dontà, since you on a roll, let me ask you this question. Because I think, really, honestly, this question is probably a little bit too soon for you to answer, Kwame, but I do have a different question for you. So the question I have for you, Dontà, is how have you changed after this experience with losing your dad?
Ooh. I don't, oh, this is the Christian show, huh?
I typically roll that way.
Okay.
Very, very demure, very mindful.
Hold on one second. Hold on. So honestly, I don't have time for people that don't have time for me.
Okay.
And it's more so I used to chase after friendships and chase after like,
Yes.
no, wait. No, wait.
Yes.
After my dad died, I was like, you know what? Y'all go. Believe what you want to believe about me. Say what you want to say. I'm tired. It's like my whole father is gone, no longer here. So if you want to paint this picture of me, this image of me that I'm a this person and that person and all that, you don't even know, I'm fine. But at first, prior to that, I was really more people focused and was more like, oh my goodness, they don't like me. I'm gonna crumble. I gotta break my back to prove to them that I'm not this person they think I am. I don't have that kind of energy anymore because that was such a transformative situation for me. And not only his death, but the aftermath when it came to family and seeing how family can do you after loss and really not be there for you. It just opened my eyes to the mentality of individuals and how grief can just change people. Yes, you guard your heart more. So I used to really need that kind of validation to let people know that no, I really am a good person. I really am. But now I don't have the bandwidth anymore because I deal I don't want to say every day because I put too much on it, but I think of my father often. Like my biological father is not alive and I cannot have those comedic conversations with him. So if you want to go over there and you want to spin this narrative, so be it. I don't care. That's how it changed me. And I don't know if that hardened me or if it softened me. I don't know what it did. I don't know what it did to me, but
it sounds to me like it enlightened you.
Yeah. Yes, mommy. My dad's side of the family, just for clarity, not my mother's.
She said, "Get it straight, okay?
I want to make sure we're clear.
Telling the family business, okay?"
Yes, mom. Yes, my dad's side of the family really, they showed up and showed out. And
showed out.
Yeah. And when you lose, I don't want to say lose family, but when you are enlightened by family, people that's not your blood, you're really like, yo, my family can do this. I don't.
That part right there. That part right there.
I cut family off. So what are you? That's really how I am now. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So Kwame, what are you doing to move through this period of grief? What are some things you're doing?
Kind of similar to the enlightenment that Dontà had. I think one of the things that my mom has always told me, she said that, when I was younger, I took care of my toys because I appreciated it. And so how I look at peace and joy are gifts from God. And I really strive like it is literally my number one priority. Aside from having conversation with God and trying to be closer to Him, my number one priority is to maintain my peace and my joy.
Wow.
So nothing is really at a point right now where things phase me anymore. It used to. I used to and when I say used to, I mean like really recent, like in the past year or so. Like things like used to bother me. And I think since in the past year and I think the therapy kicked in because I've been going to therapy since the pandemic ended or since 2021 and I think it's kicking in, and also like I recently came back to my church. Shout out to Church One Ministries, and I'm just in a different space, and I think that it's helped me maintaining my peace and just kind of looking at things like it's not worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I joke around. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I was joking around. I have this like alter ego called Kwame, and Kwame is the one that comes out and kicks the door, waving the 4-4, so to speak, and Kwame is the one that comes out and says, "I'm from the south side of heaven," right? So, and now Kwame is locked up watching TV. Sometimes Kwame will come out and be like, "Hey, do you need me? No, you're good. All right, we're good. You're still saved. All right." Yeah, so I think now, like, just seeing, because life is short, and I think I spent so much time being at odds with my dad. It didn't make sense after a while, and so I don't really have the energy or the bandwidth to have my peace disrupted or to be at odds with anyone, because it's not important to me. Like there's other things to do. We have a nation in disarray. Like let's focus on that. So,
and I also learned the importance of having a solid village.
Yeah.
Quality over quantity. I used to want to have this life of the party type thing. I'm cool with 3 people. I'm good. It's like I don't need this. I don't need all these people around me or in my business. And with social media, everybody thinks they knows you. They know you. Like, no, you don't know me. We're just friends on Facebook. We don't know each other. So I learned to really keep I think somebody put it on the chat, creating boundaries. So I created boundaries. Only
self-love.
Only a few people know when I'm really, really going through something, because I also realized when my dad passed, the people I thought who would be there for me were not. And people who I thought would just have my best interest were honestly telling my business or sharing stuff about me that wasn't real in my time of grief. And I'm like, I'm not going to pour out like I did before. I'm going to have my select few. They're going to know my bad days. Everybody else is going to see the smile, the shine, the glow. Because I can't allow myself to get back in that space, because we're all sinners saved by grace.
Come on,
striving daily, and this is a daily thing for me. Daily,
we're trying to keep it together daily.
Yeah, and I think you do stuff like, and that was something that I was processing with my therapist last month. Like just like the things that you do when you are in grief is very different from when you're in a more of a healed space. And for example, like one of the things that I noticed that I was doing in that time of grief was not acknowledging that I was feeling a certain way, but I was trying to fill that void with things or people. And so you try to bring people in, and then what oftentimes happens is that in that trying to fill that space with people who is not of quality and doesn't deserve to be there, you tend to get into situations that you don't need to be in, and so
That's true.
I think it's important to just kind of allow yourself to process sometimes on your own, and also just analyze your village, like Dr. Dontà was saying.
Yes, and the beauty in a village opposed to your blood family is you get to choose your village. You get to hand select and put all those nice people together, and I'm not afraid to say that my village, or I'll say it like this. The people who visit my house on Christmas are not always the people that have the same blood and last names and that type of familiarity. It's like you talked about choosing your peace.
Yeah.
And here at the Irving Casa, nothing but peace rolling through here.
I know that's
and
right.
if you can't get with the peace, you can't jump on the peace bandwagon. You can't come over here. Can we usher you to the door? Because it's nothing but peace. I think one of my nieces says, my house is, what does she call it? Dang it, I forgot what she calls it. But it's a place where there's no violence, no nothing. It's like, God, I can't think of what she said.
Yeah, I get
it is.
Though.
It's a safe space, and I refuse for it to be anything else.
Yeah. I'm gonna nerd out real quick. It's your fortress of solitude.
It really is. And I pray over this place. I'm like, Lord, even in my office, it was like when God blessed us with this house, I was like, Lord, I want this room to represent who I am. I want it to be me. I want it to be my place, because I had spaces to work in, but they never had a door where I could close it and just be.
Right.
And so when I come in here, and I wish you guys could see it, the walls are covered with beautiful art of women and all that kind of stuff. But I close the door and it's a place where I can just be, and I can find peace, and I can work and all of that. So yeah, we have to make choices. And when you're dealing with grief, you have to make choices. Sometimes you have to make choices about people, and maybe it won't be for a long period of time. Maybe it won't be forever, but maybe it'll be for a short period of time until you get stronger or they get smarter.
Right.
And so, you have to make those hard choices. And so I'm at a place in my life, like I said, I just turned 60, and it's like, I'm making some hard choices, and some of them I may say, I'm sorry that bothered you or it hurt your feelings, but I can't be sorry for my choices that I make, knowingly that these are the choices that I made for my life.
You're allowing yourself to be selfish.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah.
For so many years, I wasn't like that for me. It was about everyone else. And I'm not saying that I don't think about people or love on people and sacrifice for people. I still do that. But I also, I'm not willing to sacrifice my mental peace. That thing that keeps me, level. I'm not willing to sacrifice that. So I recommend that people don't sacrifice that. Don't sacrifice your mental stability and the peace that God has given. It's a gift. That peace is a gift from God. And we should never allow anyone to come in and run roughshod over it and just wreck it. Because I did that for many years and I suffered it. So I'm going to ask you this one last question. We're kind of going over time. Our producer
He gave us 10 extra minutes.
He did. I love him so much.
Look at God.
What are you doing?
The last question I have for you all tonight is, what would you like others to understand about grief that isn't often talked about?
Oh. If a person is grieving, or even if they're newly grieving, I'll say newly grieving, don't ask them what happened. Because every time you ask them what happened, you're making them relive the moment.
Yes.
People will say, "Oh my God, Dontà, what happened to your dad? He died." It was like he dead. He gone. I don't want to keep reliving that. So think about that. I mean, and we see it on social media all the time where people want to know. They want to know. Well, you're not always privy to that. It's not always your business. I don't want to have to keep explaining what happened to my father, what happened to my loved one. If you love me, just pray for me, because you know it's a huge loss. If you
Yes.
heard that Dr. Dontà Morrison's father died, you know, his daddy died. Oh my God, let me go see what happened. No, don't ask what happened. Just know that he died. He ain't here.
Yeah.
Because whatever
Right.
happened, you can't bring him back. You know,
Right.
so
Right.
I just think that was one thing that I did learn. I became exhausted sharing the story. So then that's when I did a live and shared the whole story from beginning to end, the whole 3-month saga of what happened leading to my father's passing, because I was just tired of people asking me, oh my God, what happened? What happened? Or asking me, how are you? Oh, my dad died. I'm great. How are you? It's like people miss the social cues. It's like, come
Right.
on, my dad died. I'm not good, and I don't want to talk about it. Just pray for me. So that's my thing.
I think people take your presence or the way people show up when they're in grief. I think people take it personally. So they take it personal when you don't look happy, when you're not smiling, when you're not kiki and ha-ha with them. And they take it personal so that it's like, oh no, I got to make you happy, or I got to, find out, did I do something? Answer that question. Don't ask me, did you do something? No, you didn't do anything.
It's not about you right now.
It's not about you. So Kwame, answer that question for us.
I think first of all the sentiments to what Dr. Dontà said, but I think also grief is not linear. It is there is a crazy maze. One day you're gonna feel wonderful. The next day you're going to be under the bed. The next day after that you're gonna feel like lethargic. Like there's all types, and I don't think it's okay for someone to expect a time limit on when you should get over things.
That's right.
You may never get over things. You will never be the same. And so I think expecting that of people, say, well, your father passed away 4 or 5 years ago, or this person passed away, 10 years ago. Okay. Cole could feel the same way that I'm feeling right now tomorrow.
That's right.
Dr. Dontà could feel the same way that I'm feeling yesterday in 2 weeks. So it's really something that I think, number one, that's not just for people who are expecting, but also people who are going through that process too. Give yourself a break, and because death is going to happen constantly, right? And so it's just a matter of time. We all have a time. We're all going to go back to the Lord at some point in time. And I think that just giving yourself a break and giving yourself grace has been something that I've been really trying to maintain and emphasize.
I think that's important, to give yourself grace. I really do. I think it's important to give yourself grace and to not feel responsible to make sure that other people are okay when you're not okay. You know what I mean? It was different for me to make sure my kids were okay.
Yeah.
But there are times where I felt myself trying to be the hostess with the mostest and be happy and cheerful and jolly for other people, because I didn't want them to feel bad while I was feeling bad, And so I think sometimes people just, I think it's hard for people to sit in silence. I think that's one of the hardest things for people to do. One of the things I learned when I was training for counseling was that sometimes you just need to sit with that person in silence. Yeah. Just be in their presence. And if they start talking, then you let them talk. But sometimes we just have to just pull back and just let them, if they cry, one of the other things we learned was, if they're crying, don't shove 10 tissues at them, because what that says is stop crying.
Right.
Sometimes you need to let all the snot run and the tears and the mascara and the lipstick, just let it all fall off. And then when you're done, Here's your tissue. Here's a whole face towel. Let's get it together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's very important. You said, give yourself grace. Give yourself a break.
Yeah. And I think for me, I love my dance ministry. Like they've been phenomenal. And we always do something like for birthdays or whatever, you know, we always give a card or cake or whatever, we have a moment. And I was so busy like worrying about everybody else that I didn't even think they had given me a card when I came. I think it was a couple of weeks ago when I came back. I wasn't even ever thinking, and it's routine for us, right? Like this is something that we just do for our team members, but I wasn't thinking about it for me. So it caught me off guard. And I've been in this like, gotta be strong at church. I'm going to be okay. I broke down immediately. And like, it was like a release, but I felt safe. And so, you know what I mean? And so it was just something that was super needed. I don't think they realized how important that was to me. And the fact that I just needed that release for a second, it's like, Kwame, it's okay. You know,
and I think that's so important. That is so important because I mean, I just have to give Pastor Kim a phenomenal shout out because I must admit, in 2004, and she knows, I went through one of the most traumatic experiences of my life.
Yeah.
And in that moment, you know, trying to juggle being a minister and being strong and having this facade of being okay, I had blocked out the grief. I had just blocked it completely out. And she sat back and literally watched me for like 3 or 4 months have this facade of being okay. And I will never forget, one day church was over. She came down the steps, walked over to me, and she said, okay, that's enough. Call me tomorrow. And I said, what's enough? She said, we're going to work through all of this. And I was like, I'm good. And literally that's when people just email AOL. We was emailing every day for a month, and she helped me to unpack grief because I didn't know I was stuck in a cycle. I had no idea. And it was through that I learned, one, the importance of trusting people who really care.
Yeah.
You gotta know who really care, who has non-malicious intent for getting in your business. She got in my business because she cared. And I think that makes a difference because like we said, you can't open up to everybody because some people don't have your best interest at heart. Having her walk me through that process, it changed my life because I probably wouldn't be here because my mind was just so messed up. But she helped me understand grief and helped me understand how to navigate through the sadness, the happiness, the denial, the anger, even being mad at God. You know, and all that played a significant role in my healing in that moment. So, Pastor Kim, thank you for that because I was able to better understand how to navigate my father's passing. Because I went through that very rough season. So it helped. It really helped. And I think people are so immersed in this conversation today, looking at the chat and just all that, because we don't have time. We don't have moments to just sit and talk about grief, especially as Christians. You know, especially like my mom is saying, don't cry, just pray. You know, and it's like, what? We're human beings. We feel, allow us to go through that. Thank you for saying, don't shove tissues in my face, telling me to wipe my tears. No, let me lay out in snot. Please.
Let it all hang out. Let it all hang out. Sometimes now, and it depends. So like if I'm counseling someone, sometimes, if I feel like they're uncomfortable, like crying and they're uncomfortable with it, I'll give them some tissue. But sometimes I wait and let them experience all of that. And then I'll give them a tissue, or they may ask for a tissue. But that was one of the things that we learned is like, don't shove tissues at people because that is a nonverbal that it's time for you to stop crying. And so we don't want to do that to people. We want people to experience what they experience, to let it out. They may need to scream, fall on the floor, whatever it is that they need to do, because it's such a hard emotion. That grief, that's something serious. It is something serious. But I want to thank you guys again for just being here tonight. I think the folks were just helped. I see all the comments, and we're going to have to follow this up. I'm going to be doing a podcast with Miss Cynthia Fields. She's going to be on my podcast. We're going to be recording that really soon. She was on one of my shows, 50 Plus and Fabulous or something, but she experienced a great loss in her life. And so I'm going to let her tell her story. But that'll be on Spotify and Apple Music. That Coffee with Kim podcast, the podcast, she and I are going to chop it up, and we're going to continue this conversation about grief. So thank you guys again for being here. Thank you, Kwame. Thank you. I appreciate you. I do, because I understand, you know, it's still very fresh for you. Dontà, thank you. Thank you for the shout out. Thank you for always just being there for me.
Oh, now
I do. I appreciate you. And so if you're out there and you're experiencing grief, don't block that up. Don't stop it up. Let it flow. And if you feel like you need to talk to someone, find yourself a good friend, your pastor, a loved one, or if you need to seek counseling, get into counseling. You know, but take care of yourself. Take care of that grief that you're feeling. So thank you. Thank you for going over time with us. Thank you for being here. And don't you forget to take care and stay safe. God bless you.
Thank you for watching Pyro Media Network. For more information, please visit pyromedianetwork.com.